Hello. So we're officially 2 days into this project, and some things have happened. First off, I created a Notion page for all the projects I talked about last video, and made a database to track all the tasks. There are a few things I want to finish before June, the biggest one being to release the first version of the website. So I created a domain on Porkbun, downloaded live server, and started a new HTML document. Now the main idea for the website is to have a menu bar on top with a timeline running down it, covering all the phases of this project. And I kind of already made it in April. I know, it was technically not within the 30 days, but I didn't want to study for exams. Anyways, here's a quick recap of what I coded. Actually, I was writing this part of the script, and I realized it's definitely not quick, so we're skipping that. If you're interested though, I'll paste what I was going to talk about in the description. With the timeline made, the only thing I needed to do now was to write the content for the timeline boxes, which was what I spent my Sunday doing. I will definitely change some of what I wrote, because tell me why I started rhyming. But yeah, that was mainly what I did for the website. The other stuff I wanted to finish before June were largely research focused, so I spent some time looking into the podcast and literary magazines. For the podcast, I was able to narrow down a holistic workflow that I felt like best leveraged the synergies I had with myself given my bandwidth. This was a solution that I kept circling back to after touching base with myself multiple times, and determined it would probably be the deliverable that would move the needle towards achieving our North Star. I, no joke, spent 2 hours researching this. Don't ask. I don't know either. I decided I was done with podcasts for the day, so I looked into some literary magazines. While there are many different styles of writing you can submit to these magazines or competitions, broadly speaking, I found that the majority focused on poetry, fiction, creative nonfiction, and essays. Of course, that is quite broad of a generalization. There were also some that had photography and art submissions. One asked you to submit a 6-word story, the examples of which were behind a registration wall. After some digging, I realized my writing most closely aligns with creative nonfiction, so I looked into that. Now, I know this is quite niche, but if you ever find yourself in a similar situation as I was, I have a few tips. The first is to use Submittable. I know it has a very "I was sponsored by this new AI startup" name to it, but no, literally every
literary magazine
genuinely asks you to submit through there, and because of that, they have a very helpful Discover Opportunities page. Googling also works pretty well though if you want to do that. The second is to read some of the writing that the mag actually publishes. Each have a certain style to them, so it is probably a good idea to ensure your style somewhat matches theirs. With a clear picture of the deadlines and the general word count, I decide I'm going to submit a piece of writing that's 3,000 to 4,000 words long by the end of June, which gives me exactly a month to finish writing. So I guess I'm gonna be a writer for the next month. I'll have more on that next week. And of course, to finish off, I also wrote the Substack article for the week. I'm not sure why, but every time I decided to record a time-lapse, it was for this article, so I guess all this week's footage is here. My process is always writing in paper first and then typing it out. I usually hate the first draft though, so I take a break after typing it out and then come back and edit it 2 or 3 times. This time, I had 3 edits. But yeah, that's it for this week's recap. I'll see you guys next week.